So as most of you probably noticed by now, I don't really edit my videos. I'm doing this all on a cell phone. So yeah, it's a little bit low fidelity. Um, yeah, I don't do any editing, none of that. I just kind of wing it, do everything right off the bat. So, continuing from last time, we're on chapter 4, entitled Cuphead's Plans. Sorry, Cuphead. Cuphead plans a party. On the way to school, Cuphead and Mugman saw the same familiar faces they always saw on their walk. They waved to Mr. Milky, who drove the milk wagon, said good morning to Miss Frosty, who drove the ice wagon, and gave a quick hello to Ollie Bulb, the grocer. "Hello, Cuphead. Hello, Mugman," cried Ollie. And then he cried some more. He wept with joy at the sight of them because, well, Ollie wept about everything. It's probably because he's an onion, and as you know, they're very sensitive vegetables, so the tears poured like summer rain. But no one minded, including Ollie, because there's nothing he enjoyed more than a good cry. "Are you coming to the you-know-what tonight?" Cuphead asks. "You mean the party? Wouldn't miss it," cried Ollie. "Shh, remember, it's a surprise." "A surprise? Oh, me and my big mouth," Ollie replied, and the tears poured out again. The hardest thing about having a surprise birthday party is making sure it stays a surprise. That was especially true on the Inkwell Isles. It was such a tiny community, everyone knew one another, and there was gossip everywhere. Those people couldn't wait to blab the latest news, and Elder Kettle's birthday was very big news. It was going to be a huge celebration. There'd be music and dancing, and of course, a cake. Not just any cake, mind you. For an occasion like this, Chef Salt Baker was whipping up something extra special. Chef Salt Baker was a tall, distinguished-looking salt shaker with a friendly smile and a shiny topper. His bakery was a very busy place. When Cuphead and Mugman stopped by, the chef was hard at work while spatulas, egg beaters, spoons, and the other utensils rushed about in a culinary frenzy. "Hello, Chef," Cuphead said warmly. "Is the cake ready yet?" Suddenly, everything in the busy kitchen stopped and the whole place fell silent. "Ready?" Chef Salt Baker asked, sounding a little offended. "You want to know if the cake I'm making is ready?" He turned to his kitchen utensils. "Did you hear that? He wants to know if the cake is ready." "Ha! Ha 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 ha!" The utensils all laughed. "Oh, look, Z-Cake. She is ready. We'll put it in a paper bag for you. Ha ha ha," a spatula joked. "What does he think you're making? A cupcake?" The utensils laughed again. Cuphead didn't know why, but apparently he'd asked the funniest question they'd ever heard. The cake was ready exactly when the time is right, and not a minute before, the chef told him. "I will not serve a creation this delicious at anything other than an absolute peak of freshness." Cuphead nodded, but he was shuffling his feet. "Well, I just thought since the party's tonight, you might want to have it done early." Now the entire kitchen glared at him. "Oh, make the cake early. What a wonderful idea. Here you are, Elder Kettle. Please enjoy your stale, tasteless, day-old cake. Pish-posh," Chef said, then added sheepishly, "Please excuse my salty language." Chef was an artist and a genius and a very nice guy, but he was passionate about baking. Cuphead should have known better than to question his work. "Well, maybe the cake isn't ready, but something sure smells good," Mugman said. Now Chef smiled. "In my shop, everything smells good, because everything is good. Here, lick these spoons." They did. "Mmm," Cuphead said. "What is it?" "Perfection," said the chef. "Now run along, I have a masterpiece to create." Cuphead and Mugman left the bakery, which, as luck would have it, was currently right next door to Pork Rind's store. They still needed to find a gift for Elder Kettle. They opened the door and went inside. "What do you want?" said Pork Rind. Pork Rind was a rough-looking swine with an eye patch and a gruff, gravelly voice. He wasn't great with customers, but his store always had interesting things. "We're looking for a present for Elder Kettle," Cuphead explained. "It's his birthday." "Birthday, ha! How about socks?" Pork Rind asked. "Everybody needs socks." "No," Cuphead said, "not socks. Suspenders." "No, mustache wax, shoelaces, liniment oil. It's for his birthday. It needs to be classy. You know, something fancy." Pork Rind rolled his unpatched eye. "Oh, well, pardon me, Mr. Ooh-la-la," he grunted, then turned and picked up a glass bottle from a shelf. How about some smelly French Carligny?" Cologne, that's how you say it. Or ain't that good enough for His Majesty? Cuphead sighed. There were times when he wished Pork Rind wouldn't have the only gift shop in town. Well, what about this? Said Mugman. He was standing in the corner of the store, staring at a shelf filled with toy airplanes. They had birchwood gliders and wind-up planes, and even a gas-powered flyer. For as long as he could remember, Mugman had been fascinated by planes. Jeepers, Mugman, Elder Kettle doesn't want some dumb toy, Cuphead explained to him. It's gotta be something like... And then he saw it. Inside a case just beneath the cash register was the perfect thing. It was a pocket watch, a shiny gold watch with a shimmering chain. That's exactly what we... Oh my gosh, look what time it is. The big hand on the pocket watch was pointing to 11. That meant they had just 5 minutes before the tardy bell rang. Come on, Mugman, Cuphead said. We'll come back after school. They rushed out the door. We close at 4 o'clock on the dot, Pork Rind called after them. Don't be late. We won't be, Cuphead called back. As they raced down the street towards the schoolhouse, they spotted a big crowd of people gathered in the town square. Cuphead couldn't see what they were looking at, only that they were excited. But he could see on the top of a big, colorful tent being raised into the air. Ah, it was beautiful. He froze, staring at it. Come on, you big dope, Mugman said, and he grabbed Cuphead by the collar and dragged him down the street. Thus ends Chapter 4. Next chapter, Chapter 5, A Fork in the Road. A huge, billowy cloud of dust rose behind the brothers as they ran down the old school road. It wasn't the usual kind of running, you understand. It was the kind that spins mailboxes round like weather vanes and pulls the feathers off nearby chickens. Needless to say, this made a mess of the mail that day, and greatly embarrassed a group of hens who were out for their morning stroll. But it couldn't be helped. Cuphead and Mugman simply could not be late. Not on this day. That would be a disaster. Unfortunately, the only thing moving faster than they were was the clock on the front of the large schoolhouse. It was the most annoying clock on the aisles. Never helpful when you needed it to be. Never lending you a few seconds that you could pay back tomorrow or whenever you had some spare time. No, this was one of those clocks that moved too quickly in the morning. Then took its sweet dear time getting through the rest of the day. The worst part was that the clock had it in for Cuphead. He was absolutely sure of it. Almost there, called Cuphead, wheezing like a tea kettle that's nearly out of steam. He was trying to be encouraging. Cuphead could find the bright side of a situation even when there wasn't one. But as it had happened, he was right. The school was just around the next corner. It was going to be close, down to the wire, really. But with the wind at their backs and a little luck, they might actually make it. Cuphead could picture it now. He and Mugman walking in with the other kids, getting their usual welcome from the mat. The welcome mat. Good morning, ow! Welcome to school, ow! Matt would say as the crowd trampled on his face. Nice to see you. Have a terrific day, ow! Nothing perked them up in the morning like Matt's cheerful scream beneath your feet. And Cuphead was determined to hear it. He urged Mugman on. The two of them pumped their arms and gritted their teeth. And that's when they saw it. Screech! There was a fork in the road. It wasn't just any fork. You don't bring 2 pairs of virtually flying feet to a screeching halt over any fork. It was Silverworth, or as he was known to every school-age boy and girl on the Inkwell Isles, Principal Silverworth. Gee willikers, it's the principal. Hide, Cuphead said. The two of them ducked into the bushes. It was a reflex action, an overwhelming impulse that came over them the second they saw Highfalutin Fork standing between them and the school. Everyone knew how Silverworth felt about being on time. Punctuality is the key to educationality, he said, as he pushed the students through a wide front door. Is educationality even a word? I don't know. Whenever Silverworth had something profound to say, and that was more often than you'd think, he would hold a single finger in the air as if posing for a statue. The truth is, he would not have been at all surprised to one day find tributes to him carved in marble or bronze or Limburger cheese or some other material that may be suitable for a particular occasion. After all, he was, in his humble opinion, a monumental sort of figure, a small but distinguished-looking fork. He wore a monocle because it was stylish, and passed out detention slips like a Newsy delivering the Inkwell Gazette. No one was better at catching a late Kate or tardy Marty than Principal Silverworth. He could smell a stranger a mile away, and while he hadn't yet spotted Cuphead and Mugman, he knew someone was out there, and he would find them. It was only a matter of time. If I were a lollygager, where would I be? He muttered to himself. As luck would have it, that was the very moment that Canteen Hughes, who wore extremely thick goggles, happened to walk by. Silverworth plucked the lenses from Canteen's face and held them up like binoculars. He scanned the schoolyard. Now where are you hiding? He said. There was no answer, of course, only the sound of Canteen Hughes walking blindly into the nearby post. Silverworth paid no attention. He was focused entirely on the task in front of him, and that meant Cuphead and Mugman were in a predicament. Don't worry, Cuphead said hopefully. We're not licked yet. Ring! And then, he may have spoken too soon. Nothing says you're licked more loudly than the merciless clang of the tardy bell. Cuphead stared up at the face on the big clock at the front of the building and saw her smile. It was as if she had been deliberately waiting for them to get this close, so their defeat would be that much more painful. Now they were trapped outside, just them and Silverworth. The principal raised a finger. Lateness is an impotent to greatness, he called out. This is valuable learning time you should be spending in the classroom, and you've already wasted... He turned to look at the clock behind him. When he did, Cuphead and Mugman picked up the bush, and like some kind of giant leafy caterpillar, tiptoed closer to the front of the building. They set the shrubbery down, just as Silverworth turned back around. 1 minute, he announced. Mugman and Cuphead stared at each other. A full minute gone. Class would be starting, and they were sure to be missed. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. So Mugman pulled out his thinking cap, which looked like a brain but with lightning bolts on the sides and a propeller on top, and put it on. But before he had time to do even the slightest bit of thinking, he heard a strange noise like steam escaping from a radiator. Did you say something? He whispered. No, I thought you said something, said Cuphead. I was hoping you had an idea. Not a one, Mugman told him. He went back to his thinking. There was that sound again. Cuphead looked around. What is that? I don't know, said Mugman, checking his cap. Maybe my brain is leaking? But the noise was not coming from either of Mugman's brains. It was, in fact, coming from a second-story window on the side of the school building. If the boys had only looked up, they would have seen a bright-eyed classmate waving her arms in desperate attempt to get their attention. Her name was Miss Chalice, and she was a clever and fun-loving girl with a mischievous streak that frequently got her into trouble. She was also the best friend they'd ever had. From the window, she had been watching her pals clumsily attempt to make it into the school. It was sad, really. They needed her help. Miss Chalice liked helping the boys. What she did not like was being ignored. So she reached out, grabbed the drain pipe that ran down the side of the building, and tilted it until it hovered just above the shrubbery hiding place. Then she held it up to her mouth, and very discreetly, or as discreetly as can be expected when you're using an enormous metal megaphone, said, I said, psst. The sound blasted a big flurry of leaves from the bush, and not surprisingly got the boys' attention. When they saw her smiling and waving, they couldn't have been more relieved. After all, if it was one thing Miss Chalice was better at than getting into trouble, it was getting out of it. They watched as she pulled a yo-yo from her pocket and flung it forward. It rolled out on the long string until it was right in front of their faces. And then it stopped. Written on the side of it was a message. Dear Tardy Twosome, it said. She yanked the string and the yo-yo back to her. When it rolled out again, there was another message. Looks like you're having some trouble. In short order, it rolled in and out again 6 more times with 6 messages that, when put together, said, Come to the window, and I'll help you. Get inside. Warmest regrets, Miss Chalice. P.S. Impressive yo-yoing, isn't it? The boys thought it was an excellent plan. The only flaw that it had absolutely no chance of working. How were they supposed to get to the window with Silverworth only standing a few feet away? It was impossible. But just when it looked like all hope was lost, a light bulb appeared above Cuphead. You have an idea, Mugman said excitedly. I do? Said Cuphead. He wondered what it could be. Still, there was no use wasting a perfectly good light bulb. He reached up and plucked it out of the air. And it was a lucky thing he did too, because no sooner had he pulled the brilliant light bulb in his hand than he really did get an idea. He was surprised it hadn't come to him sooner. Taking a quick peek out of the bush, He cocked back his arm and, with the dead-eye aim of a big league pitcher, tossed the bulb towards the school entrance. It sailed past Silverworth, hurried straight through the doorway, and crash! Ouch! I meant, welcome, cried Matt. Silverworth, who knew a clue when he heard one, whirled around to investigate. When his back was turned, the shrubbery again sprouted legs and ran to the side of the building. Now that they were under the window, the boys could hear their teacher, Professor Lucien, a very bookish bulb, calling roll. Canteen Hughes, here. Mac, here. Chip, here. Yikes, he was already halfway through the list, which meant they had to be fast. Fortunately, Miss Chalice was still at the window. Grab hold, she whispered. She flung the yo-yo down, and Cuphead and Mugman dutifully grabbed it. An instant later, they found themselves rolling up the side of the building. With a quick, hard yank of the string, Miss Chalice pulled the brothers through the window and spun them across the room like a couple of jumbo-sized tops. They bounced from wall to wall and desk to desk and aisle to aisle, then teetered and tottered, and just when it looked like things were coming to a disastrous end, wobbled past their classmates and plunked down into their seats, and not a moment too soon. Cuphead, said Professor Lucien, called. Here, Cuphead wailed. Then his desk toppled over like a top-heavy icebox. Are you all right? The professor asked. Oh, he's right as rain, groaned Mugman, who was hugging the top of his own desk like a seasick sailor on a life raft. And he'll be even better once the school stops spinning. Now, for most people, if they were paying any attention at all, the brothers' behavior that morning would have seemed a tad unusual. But this never occurred to Professor Lucien. In fact, he hadn't even noticed. Please don't think this was because he was a bad teacher. Quite the opposite. Lucien was a very good and very kind teacher, but he was also the smartest person on the Inkwell Isles, and, as any smart person will tell you, this can be a terrible burden. Regrettably, when your mind is filled with formulas and theorems and equations, there simply isn't room for very much else more. That's why highly intelligent people tend to miss things like jokes and dental appointments and students being yo-yoed through the classroom window. It's just their way. From his spot on the floor, Cuphead soon realized two things. Professor Lucien needed new shoes, and the class was extremely excited about something. An electric murmur was coursing through the room, and while he couldn't make out everything, one word came through loud and clear. Carnival! Thus ends Chapter 5. Have a nice day.